Most men do not have a money problem. They have a confrontation problem. They avoid looking directly at their finances because it forces honesty. And honesty is uncomfortable. You earn, you spend, you move forward, but something always feels unstable. Not broke, not desperate, unstable. That instability is the quiet stress that follows you everywhere. It sits in the background of your life. You feel it when you rest. You feel it when you work. You feel it when nothing is wrong. Benjamin Franklin understood this centuries ago. He knew that financial stress was not caused by lack of income. It was caused by lack of clarity. Men do not suffer because they are poor. They suffer because they do not know where they stand. Franklin believed uncertainty was the most expensive condition a man could live with. More expensive than taxes, more expensive than mistakes, more expensive than failure, because uncertainty destroys judgment. When you do not know your position, you hesitate. When you hesitate, you delay decisions. When you delay decisions, chaos grows quietly. Franklin rejected that way of living. He believed a man must face his reality daily, not emotionally, not dramatically, structurally. This is where most men refuse to follow him. They say they are too busy, too tired, too stressed. Franklin would have called that an excuse. He believed avoidance was not protection, it was surrender. The habit he practiced took 12 minutes, not an hour, not a spreadsheet marathon, not a complex system. 12 minutes of deliberate confrontation, and most men refuse to do it because it removes their illusions. Illusions are comfortable. Clarity is not. Modern culture teaches men to chase motivation. Franklin taught men to enforce order. Motivation comes and goes. Order stays. Franklin understood that money without supervision behaves like a child without discipline. It wanders. It leaks. It disappears. And then the man blames the world. The economy. Bad luck. Low income. Franklin blamed systems. He believed that if money was not being governed, it was being wasted. Always. This is why his wealth was stable long before it was large. He built discipline first. Growth followed. Most men do the opposite. They chase growth while living in disorder. That never works. Franklin believed money must be reviewed daily, not to obsess, but to command. When money is ignored, it gains power. When money is reviewed, it submits. This is the habit most men refuse, because it requires facing small failures before they become big ones. Small leaks, small indulgences, small delays. Men would rather ignore them and hope they disappear. Hope was not part of Franklin's system. He believed hope was for things outside your control. Money was not one of them. He believed that a man who avoids his finances daily is a man slowly giving up authority. And authority, once lost, is difficult to reclaim. This is why the 12-minute habit matters. It is not about numbers, it is about identity. In the next part, you will learn exactly what Franklin reviewed during those 12 minutes. Not theory, not philosophy, procedure. Because procedure is where power lives. Part 2, the 12-minute confrontation. Benjamin Franklin did not ask emotional questions. He did not ask how he felt about money. He did not ask if he was ahead or behind. He asked structural questions. Every day he reviewed 3 things: what entered, what exited, what drifted. That was it. No complexity, no negotiation, money in, money out, money that moved without permission. This is where modern men break down. They want details before discipline. Franklin demanded discipline before detail. He understood that complexity creates avoidance, so he stripped the process down. During his daily review, Franklin wrote nothing lengthy. He observed patterns. Where did money move as planned? Where did it move impulsively? Where did it move without awareness? That third category mattered most. Money that moves without awareness is the seed of chaos. Franklin believed every untracked expense weakened authority. Not because of the amount, because of the behavior. Small disobedience trains larger disobedience. Franklin believed discipline was trained through repetition, not intensity. So he reviewed daily. 12 minutes was intentional, long enough to see reality, short enough to remove excuses. Most men avoid daily review because it exposes contradictions. They say they value stability, but spend emotionally. They say they want growth, but leak consistency. Franklin faced these contradictions calmly. He did not shame himself. He corrected the system. This is where Franklin differed from modern thinking. Modern thinking says, fix your mindset. Franklin said, fix your structure. Mindset follows structure automatically. During the 12 minutes, Franklin did not fix everything. He made one correction, one adjustment, remove one leak, delay one indulgence, redirect $1, These micro-corrections compounded. Most men wait for big opportunities. Franklin prevented big mistakes. That is a superior strategy. He believed disasters were rarely sudden. They were slow accumulations of ignored signals. Daily review caught those signals early. This habit did something powerful. It trained Franklin's nervous system to expect order. When your body expects order, chaos becomes uncomfortable. This is why discipline eventually feels natural. Franklin did not rely on willpower. He trained expectation. The 12-minute habit removed emotional decision-making. Money decisions were no longer reactive. They were procedural. This is why Franklin remained calm during pressure. His system absorbed stress before it reached him. In the next part, you will learn why this habit multiplied wealth instead of just preserving it, because control alone is not enough. Part 3. Why this habit multiplies money. Benjamin Franklin believed wealth was not created by effort. It was created by alignment. When money moves consistently in the same direction, momentum forms. Momentum is what multiplies money. Chaos destroys momentum. Most men reset constantly. One emotional decision erases months of progress. One indulgence collapses discipline. Franklin's daily habit prevented resets because nothing drifted long enough to become dangerous. The 12-minute review created inevitability. Money began to behave predictably. Predictability creates confidence. Confidence improves decision-making. Better decisions compound. Franklin did not chase returns. He eliminated waste. Waste is the silent enemy of wealth. Not luxury, not enjoyment. Waste. Waste comes from inattention. Franklin believed attention was the most valuable resource. Where attention goes, order follows. This habit also created delayed gratification naturally. When you review money daily, impulse loses power. You see patterns. Patterns expose weakness, and once weakness is visible, it cannot hide. This is why most men refuse this habit. It removes self-deception. Franklin understood that money reflects character. If finances are chaotic, behavior is chaotic. This habit trained behavior, and trained behavior built identity. Franklin became a man who governed money. That identity is permanent. Once identity shifts, discipline sustains itself. This is where wealth becomes inevitable, not exciting, not dramatic. Inevitable. In the final part, you will learn how to implement this habit exactly as Franklin intended, and why 12 minutes is enough. Part 4. How to apply it today, and why it works. You do not need Franklin's income. You do not need his era. You need his discipline. Choose a fixed time daily, same time, same place, 12 minutes. No phone, no distractions. Review 3 things: what entered, what exited, what moved without permission. Make 1 correction, not 10. 1. Repeat daily. That is the system. Do not wait to feel ready. Readiness comes after repetition. This habit will feel uncomfortable at first. That is proof it is working. Discomfort means illusion is dying. Within weeks, clarity replaces anxiety. Within months, momentum appears, not because you earned more, because you leaked less. That is how Franklin built wealth, not through hacks, through obedience. If this video brought clarity to your financial thinking, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications. Iron Republic is for men who choose structure over chaos, discipline over hope, and sovereignty over noise. In the comments, write 1 money behavior you will correct starting today. 1 leak, 1 indulgence, 1 act of disorder. Commit publicly, because order grows when declared. The 12-minute confrontation. Benjamin Franklin did not manage money emotionally. He managed it structurally. He believed emotion was unreliable, but systems were permanent. This is why his daily money habit was deliberately short, 12 minutes. Not because money deserved little attention, but because clarity did not require obsession. Franklin understood something most men miss. When a task feels heavy, it grows larger in the mind than it is in reality. When it feels large, it gets postponed. When it gets postponed, disorder grows. So he compressed financial authority into a small, unavoidable window. 12 minutes forced consistency. Consistency created control. During those 12 minutes, Franklin reviewed only 3 things: what entered, what exited, what moved without permission. Nothing more. No forecasting, no dreaming, no emotional interpretation, just reality. Most men believe they need complexity to manage money. Franklin believed complexity was the enemy. Complex systems create excuses. Simple systems create obedience. When Franklin reviewed what entered, he did not celebrate income, he recorded it. Celebration creates attachment. Attachment distorts judgment. Money was not a reward, it was a resource. When he reviewed what exited, He did not justify spending. He observed it. Justification weakens discipline. Observation strengthens it. But the most important category was the third, money that moved without permission. This was where Franklin found truth. Unplanned spending, forgotten subscriptions, impulse decisions, small indulgences disguised as necessities. Franklin believed these were not financial issues. They were leadership failures. Any system that allows movement without authorization is already compromised. Franklin did not tolerate that. He believed that money, like time, must be governed before it arrives. If money entered his life without assignment, he considered it a breach. Most men allow money to arrive freely and hope it behaves. Hope was not part of Franklin's philosophy. He believed hope belonged to weather and war. Money belonged to discipline. This is why the 12-minute habit felt uncomfortable. It exposed behavior, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, undeniable way. Men avoid this because it removes the illusion of control. They feel busy, they feel productive, but the review reveals drift. Drift is the true enemy. Franklin understood that drift does not announce itself, it accumulates. One small exception becomes permission. Permission becomes pattern. Pattern becomes lifestyle. The daily review interrupted that chain. Franklin did not fix everything during those 12 minutes. He made one correction, one adjustment, remove one leak, delay one unnecessary expense, reassign $1. That was enough. Franklin believed consistency beat intensity. Most men want dramatic change. Franklin wanted permanent change. Dramatic change burns energy. Permanent change conserves it. This is why the habit worked even during periods of low income. Control does not require abundance. It requires standards. Franklin believed standards protected men from themselves. Without standards, desire leads. Desire is impatient. It wants relief now, not stability later. The 12-minute habit removed negotiation. There was no debate, no internal discussion. Money either followed rules or it did not. When it did not, the system was adjusted. Not the mood, not the motivation, the system. This is where modern thinking fails. Modern thinking says build discipline through willpower. Franklin built discipline through environment. He engineered his behavior. If something caused repeated financial leaks, he increased friction. If something supported order, he reduced friction. Good behavior became easier. Bad behavior became inconvenient. This is behavioral authority, not motivation. Over time, something powerful happened. Franklin's nervous system adapted. Order became normal. Chaos felt wrong. This is the hidden advantage of daily review. You are not just managing money. You are retraining your expectations. Your body begins to expect clarity. When clarity is expected, avoidance becomes uncomfortable. This is why discipline eventually feels natural. Franklin was not born disciplined. He designed discipline into his day. The 12-minute confrontation did something else. It removed fear. Most men fear money because they avoid it. Avoidance magnifies uncertainty. Uncertainty creates anxiety. Franklin reversed this. He faced reality daily, so reality lost its power over him. Nothing surprised him. Surprise is what causes panic. Panic destroys judgment. Franklin believed panic was always a sign of neglect. Men panic when they are confronted with consequences they ignored. The daily review prevented that. No surprises, no emotional spirals, only procedure. This is why Franklin remained calm during financial pressure. His system absorbed the stress before it reached him. He did not need confidence. Confidence is emotional. He had clarity. Clarity is structural, and structure outlasts emotion. In the next part, you will see why this habit did more than preserve money. It created momentum, and momentum is what turns discipline into wealth. How discipline turns into momentum. Benjamin Franklin did not stop at control. Control was only the beginning. Most men believe discipline is about restriction. Franklin believed discipline was about momentum. Restriction feels heavy. Momentum feels inevitable. This is the difference that separates men who merely survive from men whose wealth compounds quietly over decades. Franklin understood something most people never realize. Once money stops leaking, it starts gathering force. Not suddenly, not dramatically, gradually. This is why most men never experience momentum. They patch leaks temporarily, then return to chaos. Franklin never returned. He understood that discipline must become automatic before growth is allowed. Growth without discipline creates fragility. Fragility collapses under pressure. Franklin refused fragility. The 12-minute habit did not just track money, it trained behavior. Behavior is the true multiplier. Money follows behavior the same way shadow follows movement. Once Franklin's financial behavior became predictable, opportunity could finally trust him. This is a hard truth most men resist. Opportunity avoids chaos. People do not lend to unstable men. Partners do not trust impulsive men. Markets do not reward emotional men. Franklin became predictable in the best way, reliable, measured, unreactive. That predictability created momentum. Momentum is when effort produces more than it consumes. Most men live in a state where effort barely keeps them afloat. Franklin crossed the threshold where effort began to stack. This happened when discipline removed recovery time. No resets, no emotional setbacks, no self-inflicted damage. Every week built on the previous one. Franklin did not need sudden income increases. He needed continuity. Continuity is the silent advantage. It allows small gains to remain intact long enough to compound. This is where modern men fail. They make progress, then sabotage it. A bad month, an emotional purchase, an impulsive risk. Momentum breaks. Franklin engineered his life to prevent this. His rules were not designed to make him rich fast. They were designed to make him unbreakable. Once discipline stabilized his base, Franklin allowed only one variable to grow: time. Time is useless in chaos. Time is lethal in order. This is why Franklin favored boring investments, reliable trades, stable partnerships, skills with enduring demand. He avoided anything that required constant attention. Attention drains energy. Energy loss weakens discipline. Franklin protected his energy ruthlessly. He believed peace was not a luxury. It was a strategic advantage. A calm man makes better decisions. A calm system compounds faster. This is why Franklin rejected speculative behavior. Speculation requires emotion. Emotion introduces volatility. Volatility destroys momentum. Franklin wanted inevitability. He positioned himself so money had nowhere to go but forward. This is the real secret behind his wealth. Not intelligence, not hustle, not luck. Structure. Structure turns consistency into accumulation. Once momentum began, Franklin became harder to destabilize. Unexpected expenses no longer caused panic. Slow months no longer created fear. Because momentum absorbs shock. This is what most men misunderstand. Wealth is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of buffer. Buffers create calm. Calm preserves judgment. Franklin built buffers deliberately. Emergency reserves, multiple income streams, skills that generated value regardless of circumstance. He believed redundancy was strength. One income is fragile. One skill is fragile. One plan is fragile. Franklin did not call this paranoia. He called it preparation. Preparation removes fear. Fear is expensive. Fear causes bad decisions. Bad decisions destroy momentum. Franklin avoided fear by design. He also understood that momentum changes identity. Once discipline becomes habitual, temptation loses power. Spending impulsively begins to feel foreign. Neglect begins to feel wrong. This is when wealth becomes self-reinforcing. You no longer need to force discipline. The system enforces it for you. Franklin understood that effort does not scale. Systems do. This is why the 12-minute habit mattered so much. It required little effort but delivered permanent structure. Once the system was built, Franklin did not need to think about money constantly. Money already knew where to go. This freed mental energy. Mental energy is leverage. Leverage allows a man to think long-term. Long-term thinking is rare. Most men are trapped in short-term urgency. Urgency creates reactive behavior. Reactive behavior kills momentum. Franklin lived without urgency, not because life was easy, but because his system absorbed pressure. This is the moment when discipline turns into quiet power. You stop rushing, you stop chasing, you stop reacting, you begin positioning. Positioning attracts opportunity. People trust men who are not desperate. Markets reward men who are patient. Franklin became both. And once momentum fully set in, Franklin noticed something critical. Money stopped feeling emotional. It became neutral. Neutral money does not control mood. When money no longer controls mood, clarity emerges. Clarity allows better choices. Better choices increase momentum. This feedback loop is the real engine of wealth, not motivation. Motivation fades. Franklin built systems that worked even on bad days, even when tired, even when stressed, even when discouraged. That is the test of a real system. If it only works when you feel good, it is not a system. It is a wish. Franklin rejected wishes. He engineered certainty, and certainty compounds. In the next part, you will see the final phase. How Franklin protected this momentum for decades. How he insulated himself from collapse. And why men who skip this phase eventually lose everything they build. This is where discipline becomes legacy, and where most men fail permanently. The identity shift. The habit that quietly changes everything. By now, you might feel something unusual. Not motivation, not excitement, but clarity. That's important, because Benjamin Franklin never built wealth through hype. He built it through identity-level discipline. This final part is not about doing more. It's about becoming someone different. Most men fail financially not because they lack information, but because their identity never changes. They still see themselves as someone who reacts, someone who spends to feel better, someone who hopes things work out. Franklin understood something ancient and uncomfortable. Wealth does not respond to desire. It responds to character, and character is built in silence. Why most men abandon good habits, and why you won't. Let's be honest. You've tried habits before. Budgeting apps, morning routines, motivational videos, spreadsheets. They worked for a week, maybe two. Then, life happened. Franklin anticipated this centuries ago. That's why his system wasn't built on motivation. It was built on frictionless consistency. His 12-minute habit worked because it required no energy, no inspiration, no external validation, just a pen, a quiet moment, and brutal honesty. That's why most men refuse to do it, because it forces them to face reality daily. And reality is where wealth begins. The moment the habit starts paying. You back, something subtle happens around day 21. You stop feeling poor, even if your bank account hasn't changed yet. Why? Because your mind stops panicking. You no longer wonder, am I doing okay? Why does money disappear? Why do I work so hard and feel behind? You know, and knowledge removes fear. Franklin believed fear was the greatest tax a man pays. Once fear is gone, decisions become calmer, spending slows naturally, opportunities become visible. This is when men think, is this it? Is this the whole secret? Yes and no. Because now comes the identity lock-in. The Franklin identity rule. Franklin lived by a simple but ruthless principle. Never confuse comfort with progress. Most men stop the habit once things feel better. Franklin did the opposite. He continued especially when things improved. Why? Because improvement is fragile. Wealth is not built during crisis. It's built during stability. This is where the 12-minute habit evolves, not into more time, but into higher standards. You begin asking better questions. Was this expense aligned with my future self? Did this decision reduce or increase future stress? Is this choice moving me toward independence or dependence? At this stage, money stops being emotional. It becomes strategic. That's when real wealth begins compounding. Why this system is ancient and dangerous to modern culture. Modern culture survives on distraction, notifications, impulse spending, buy now, pay later, fake urgency. Franklin's system destroys all of it. It slows you down, and nothing threatens consumer culture more than a man who pauses before spending, questions his impulses, values tomorrow more than today. That's why this habit is never promoted. It creates financially sovereign men, men who don't panic, men who don't chase, men who don't need approval. Ancient American thinkers believed discipline was the highest form of freedom. Franklin proved it. The 90-day effect. What happens if you don't quit? If you stay with this habit for 90 days, 3 irreversible changes occur. You gain financial self-respect. You stop lying to yourself. And self-respect attracts opportunity. Your spending aligns automatically. No budgeting pain, no restriction mindset, just natural restraint. You start thinking long-term by default. Most men live week to week. You start thinking in years. This is why Franklin retired wealthy without ever chasing money. Money followed him because discipline led him. The final truth. The promise you were given at the beginning. At the start, I promised you something would happen if you stayed until the end. Here it is. You will stop feeling financially chaotic, even before your income increases. And once chaos disappears, wealth becomes inevitable. Not fast wealth, not flashy wealth, but unbreakable wealth. The kind that survives mistakes, the kind that grows quietly, the kind no one can take from you. Benjamin Franklin didn't leave behind a money trick. He left behind a mirror. And the man who looks into it for 12 minutes a day, without excuses, without ego, without escape, becomes wealthy by default. Not because he chased money, but because he finally learned how to command himself.